Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me here on Wave Now. I'm Myra Ansari. We are going live to an update where several officials are providing an update on the 3 barges that are stuck in the McAlpine Dam. In this stream, I put a link to our latest story as well for some background information.
Of the McAlpine Barge Company, along with representatives from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Louisville Emergency Management Agency, and Kentucky Emergency Management Services. Shortly after 2 a.m. yesterday morning, a vessel towing 11 barges made contact with a stationary structure at the entrance to the Portland Canal near the McAlpine locks and dams. As a result, 10 of the 11 barges broke loose, with 3 barges settling against the lower McAlpine Dam structure. As of just minutes ago, 2 barges remain settled against the lower McAlpine Dam structure along the Ohio River. Currently, crews are just removed one of those 3 barges and are actively working on site. Crews have been on site since daybreak, further assessing the damage and determining operational objectives for the next 12 to 24 hours. More than 80 air quality samples have been taken so far, and all tests to date show no evidence of hazards that would pose a health risk, though teams are continuously monitoring the situation. We are also taking water samples on a regular basis. Again, there's no evidence of any leaks at this time, and you'll hear more about this shortly. Our monitoring will remain firmly in place until the situation is fully resolved. The U.S. Coast Guard is investigating the incident. As we move forward, safety is our number one priority. The safety of the public and the safety of the first responding team. The cargo aboard the barges mostly carried corn, and one vessel with 3 independent cargo holds contained approximately 1,400 tons of methanol. The Kentucky Energy and Environment Cabinet will continue sampling the Ohio River downstream from the dam and will make the results public as they become available. So first, I'm going to turn it over to Rob Blair, an environmental scientist with the Kentucky Energy and Environment Cabinet. Rob?
Thank you. Good afternoon. The Kentucky Energy and Environment Cabinet is here in a supporting role relative to the environmental monitoring that is taking place and will continue to take place throughout this incident until it is resolved. The initial monitoring was conducted by the Louisville Fire Department in the form of air monitoring on both sides of the river, upstream, downstream of the incident location. As the mayor stated, the results have shown no detection of methanol that would be dangerous to humans or the surrounding area. The water samples are being collected by the Energy and Environment Cabinet on a 3-mile stretch downstream of the incident location. We have 5 locations that we are sampling on a daily basis. Those samples are going to a private lab, and we are still waiting on the initial results. However, as we collect those samples, we are also taking in-field measurements for basic water quality parameters, and all of those have come back as normal. All of this monitoring will continue and be eventually transitioned to the private consultant representing the responsible party. But in the meantime, we will continue taking the lead on those. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. The barges were barges of Ingram Barge Company, and representatives from Ingram Barge Company have been on the scene here in Louisville since yesterday, shortly after this incident happened. And we are joined now by the CEO of Ingram Barge Company, John Roberts. John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really appreciate your support and leadership as we move through this incident. I'd like to thank all members of local, state and federal agencies that are working with our incident command as we resolve this incident and get these barges pulled back out safely. I'd also like to thank all of the Ingram associates that are here and everyone that we've hired and brought in here to get this response done. You know, Ingram is a proud member of the Kentucky business community with over 400 associates residing in the Commonwealth. This is incredibly important to us, and I want to thank you, all members of the media, for being here. Transparency is key to us, and we do appreciate you being here and look forward to answering questions. We'd also like to emphasize that although we were not the operator when this occurred, those are our barges out there on that dam, and we are going to be responsible for getting them off in a safe manner. So we're committed to doing what it takes to make that right. We brought in world-class resources to help us in that effort, and we're going to continue to do so until we get the job completely done. I'd like to say that we've got 2 separate environmental response teams here and monitoring groups, both air and water. Reiterating what Mr. Mayor talked about with regard to 80 air samples that have proven negative thus far. We will continue to do that, and we will also continue to do water sampling along with the state. We've also brought in TT Salvage as a salvage company that is world leader in vessel recovery operations to help us resolve this as safely as we possibly can. It is our primary objective for the safety of this community and all of the citizens that live in this area, and also the personnel that are involved in the recovery operations. We're going to do this, and we're going to do it right, and we're going to make sure that we don't take a bad incident and make it worse. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, John. And also, as I mentioned, we've set up a unified command structure involving the Coast Guard, led by Captain Heather Mattern. She is the captain of the port for the Ohio Valley River System. Captain?
Good afternoon. I first want to say that we have restarted vessel traffic, and we do that with the restrictions in order to maintain safety in both the salvage and the salvage operations. I also wanted to highlight what can be inherent dangers of salvage operations, especially in the dynamic river environment. So this will take some time because we want to make sure that we're prioritizing safety for the community and our community that we live in, the workers that are working on this salvage operation, and also the environment. So please understand that that safety is absolutely our priority, and that will take some time to make sure that we do this right and to definitely minimize the impact. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Captain Mattern. We are now willing to take questions from the media. All of us are available for any questions you all might have. Can you speak up a little bit also, just with the...
What's the thought process when trying to really recover that barge container Are you all process?
John, do you maybe want to describe a little bit about the question is about what's the thought process about how you approach clearing the methanol out of the barge?
Yeah, thank you. If I understand correctly, you're asking what we think is the process of clearing the methanol barge at this time. The most important thing is the safety, and you've got some pretty high current right there. So we need the river levels to get to where we can potentially down beneath the dam so that we can maybe close some of the gates and build up a pool. We believe that the pressure of the current right now is what's pinning the barge against the dam. And at that point, it should refloat itself, and then we can pull it out. That is the thought process at this time.
So at the moment, you'd be monitoring the barge and not actually actively
It's just the conditions are unsafe right now to actively get out on the barge itself. So we do air monitoring and water sampling. We don't believe there's been any breaches at this time. There's been no evidence of any of that at all, and we will continue to do that.
What's your assessment of the damage that's been done to those two barges that are still there?
We'll have to further assess when we can actually get on the equipment. From all we see is what y'all have seen as well, as far as the video coverage. If you're asking the physical damage to the barges itself, we'll have to be able to get on them when we can safely to do so.
I don't know anything about barges, but it looks like one of them is possibly breached. Does that appear to look the same way to you?
Well, and I've got our salvage company here as well. Maybe that might be a more appropriate response from, if that would help.
Just introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Teichman with TNT Salvage. I'm sorry I didn't hear the question.
The question is, what's your assessment of the damage to those two barges that are still there? I don't know anything about barges. It looks like it's definitely damaged, possibly breached.
Yes, sir. So the hopper barge is definitely, we can see where the side shell has been damaged in one of the double bottoms. The methanol barge, we're unable to see any damage on the stern part of it, but we have seen some damage on the double bottoms on it as well.
What does that mean for you in terms of recovering the barges?
Well, normally before we would lift a barge like this, we would remove the product. Right now it's just not safe to go on board. We're still seeing some minor changes. We just removed the 13925, one of the other hoppers. I don't know if y'all had talked about that. So we're able to possibly see a little bit more of what's going on with the methanol barge. But right now we're still in the early stages of planning. Like Captain said, number one priority is safety. We don't want to hurt anybody, and we don't want to make the situation worse than it already is.
The last time we had barges stacked up on the dam, it took 4 months or so to get them removed. Are we looking at a similar rescue project?
It doesn't look like it's going to take that long. Obviously we've got to let the river drop. It depends on rain events and there's a lot of factors. It's really. I don't at this time, no, ma'am.
A significant drop in water level? Are we looking for a significant drop in water level?
I think probably it's hard to say right now.
Is the methanol in a solid state or liquid?
Liquid.
For safety reasons, when you start to remove the cargo, whenever you're able to do that, will precautionary evacuations be necessary?
We don't believe so. I'm sorry, I'm really hard of hearing. All the traffic.
This might be a better question for someone else, but do we know a little bit more about what led up to the incident?
So the Coast Guard is responsible for doing the investigation, and that's an ongoing investigation. So I cannot, speak on the details in that time because we need to go through that process. But the investigation process actually does two things. It gets to the root of why this happened, but then it also provides us information on if there's reasons or things that we can do in the future to possibly prevent it from happening in the future. So it's a process we take very seriously, and one that just takes a little bit to make sure that we have the right factors and details.
To be clear, did you say that the river traffic has resumed?
Yes, we have resumed with restrictions. So we are kind of closely, it is high water anyway, so we have what we call a vessel traffic service that kind of monitors the traffic and talks to everyone who's going through that kind of very tight area during the high water anyways. And so we're closely monitoring it and then putting some restrictions on it so that we make sure that we maintain the safety of the salvage and the salvage operations.
Can you define those restrictions? What are you talking about?
Well, they change as the situation changed. Currently, we have people going northbound is pretty similar to normal, but going southbound, we get like a helper boat, which is additional assistant to help kind of go through that narrow area. Similar to like when you're running down a hill, you kind of maintain and get a little bit faster. Well, that's when you're going with the current, it tends to get a little faster. So we have and the second vessel down there to help control that speed and that movement.
All added insurance to make sure that they don't encroach upon.
Yes, yeah, and that's what it all is because first of all, we have people who are working on that salvage right now, so we don't want to put any of their lives in danger, or we don't want to make the actual salvage worse. And so that is one of the reasons that we're being overly cautious to make sure that we minimize any impact on that.
What are the potential environmental risks of this methanol leaking out into the river, on aquatic habitat, and also on the drinking water downstream?
You know what? I'm going to turn that over. We have an expert. Where did he go? Right here.
So can you repeat the question, please?
What are the potential environmental impacts of a breach of this 1,400 tons of methanol? What are the potential aquatic impacts? What are the potential impacts of drinking water downriver?
Okay, so this is from our chemists as well as chemists that work for the firm hired by the responsible party. When we talk about the potential environmental impacts, if we had a catastrophic release, all of the fluid that is contained on that barge releasing all at once, we would have some of that would get dissolved into the water, but it is also very volatile, so we would have some of that essentially off gas into the atmosphere. That's why we're monitoring both the surface water as well as the air. Based on calculations and the dilution factors in the river, the current of the river, we estimate that within about 15 miles downstream, we would have enough off-gassing and dilution that it would no longer be a major concern. We would probably see some impacts to aquatic life. The only drinking water intakes that we have below us on the Ohio River are as far down as Henderson, which is about 200 miles downstream. On the other side of the river, you're talking about Evansville, and by then we wouldn't have any concerns with impacts to drinking water.
You talk about aquatic impacts. You mean fish kills?
Yes, sir. Yes.
What does that mean in the 15 miles before it becomes diluted enough where it's not a factor? What happens in that 15 miles?
That's difficult to say. We probably would have some impacts to aquatic life. We may see a fish kill, but we also know that it will take some time for this chemical to break down in the water before we would actually have impacts to the aquatic life. So that would allow for more dilution factor as well as more time for it to volatilize to leave into the atmosphere.
Is the air going to be safe to breathe in that 15 miles in case of a catastrophic release?
We believe so. If that were to happen, the air monitoring as well as the water monitoring would be expanded greatly downstream. Orsanco, the Ohio River Valley Sanitation Commission, is also taking part in the monitoring, and so they would have active monitoring farther downstream as well. And so we would be keeping a close eye on that, but based on current status, we believe that it would be safe.
Any idea what the direction is?
Right now?
Well, I know that it changes since the Ohio River. I'm just curious.
No, that would be maybe somebody, I don't even, probably Noah would be the best person to answer that question. Okay.
Thank you all very much. Again, just to conclude, all of that is, as you can tell, we are focused on safety, and so we are preparing for any possible result. We are focused on the safety of the public, on the safety of the first responders. As of right now, there is no evidence of any leaking. We will continue to monitor the air and water, continue to provide the results on a regular basis to you and the entire community with information as it becomes available. We thank you all very much for coming, and we will continue to stay in touch. Thank you all very much.
All right, you heard that press conference coming from several local leaders about the barges that got stuck yesterday in the McAlpine Dam. What we know so far from the information they've given us, that now 2 barges that are remaining settled there. The crews removed one. There's 80 air quality samples that they're doing right now. They do not believe there's any health risk to folks. No leak so far. They've been doing water samples and no evidence of the leaks there. The U.S. Coast Guard is also investigating this. So they didn't explain to us today yet about why this happened. So those barges were carrying mostly corn, and one vessel had about 1,400 tons of methanol. And they're also monitoring the air, is what they said as well, on both sides of the river. Having several places of locations where they're doing sampling. The barges came from Ingram Barge Company, but John Roberts, the CEO of Ingram Barge, said they were not the operator of these barges, but the barges do belong to them. So the Coast Guard also said that they have restricted vessel traffic now going along the Ohio River. It's going to take some time, and a lot of that has to do with the river level conditions. They said that they need the river levels to come down beneath the dam. The pressure of the current is kind of pinning those barges against the dam, and it's unsafe to get on the barge right now. So again, the Coast Guard is investigating and trying to determine what caused this. We're trying to figure out what damage was done to the vessels, and they're also said they're very focused on safety. Wave News reporter David Mattingly is covering this story for us today. He's going to have much more coming up on Wave News at 5 and 6. I'm Myra Ansari. Have a great day.